But like when I went to class yesterday, they all wanted to know everything about what happened. And the only thing I shared, I think it's the only thing I shared with them was the moment when we went hands on. The first time we went hands on, when you told me to push you back, and you said push me back, move back, and what I said to them was like, given the differential between the size and the weight, I said, first off was that your arm didn't feel normal because it was like steel. And then I said it was like trying to move a mountain. And then the car crash moment where my head went completely mashed was that I was trying to push a mountain, and then the mountain walked towards me. And as you step forwards, the fact that you were able to maintain that power as you, it was, it just, it seemed to defy science that you, because you had that amount of, you were immovable, and then the immovability was moving into me without any break, any undulation in power. It was just a constant out. That's what I shared with them. I've had hundreds of issues where I've had to like arrest people and put them into vans and put them into cells, move people around, take control of people. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. No matter, we just didn't. I haven't had that experience before.
No matter how big they were? Big and strong?
No, it doesn't matter. Because it wasn't normal. Normal, you know what will happen with normal people is that how they feel and how they react and how they respond. Now they'll seize up and try to restrain and stop. But that feeling was different. It was, never, not in 30 years of police work and security work, had I experienced that before. It was like a car crash because my brain couldn't comprehend. It was like being in a panicky car crash because my brain couldn't comprehend how it was all happening, and there was like a confusion in my head. I was confused as to what was actually happening and how you were actually doing it.
You had your hands on me, and you were trying to control me.
Yeah, and
so
I couldn't, and in them moments, my brain couldn't comprehend how I couldn't control you.
I see. Based on your past experience.
Yeah, so that's the shock. When I say car crash, it's like, you're in a car crash and it's like your brain freezes as to what is happening as you lose control. And that's, my brain was frozen as to why I couldn't control the situation. First off, it was shock, but then that my brain just went completely to mush when you were able to move forwards, maintaining that amount of power. I couldn't comprehend what was going on.
But how is the body on a martial art level, self-defense level, reacting to someone entering into your space?
No, I think because in the situation, you're trying to control the other person. And so my brain would have been constantly thinking about control. But then there was no opportunity to get any control. And so it was my brain was like frozen in like a panic, hoping for the situation to change so I could get back into control. I couldn't get control. So the brain like froze and panicked. And that was a great experience for me to experience that, because in the line of work I do now, like the majority of people have to go face to face with 6'4", 6'5". So I was just thinking, wow, in context, that's going to be amazing at work.
And it's also less effort.
That's what I'm coming to understand. And the fact is that I know now, no matter how big or how strong the other person is going to be, no matter age, height, strength, anything, I'll be able to freeze it.
That's right.
To nullify it, no matter what comes at me, because of the science.
Would you agree that what you felt was a quality of another person's body, not just some snazzy, quick technique?
No, because there was nothing natural or ordinary about any of it.
What was happening to your root?
I don't know. I can't remember. My brain was in a panic. Like I said to you about how it was affecting me not just on a psychological level, but on an emotional level as well. That was quite profound. You know, when you spent 40 odd years searching and researching, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the truth, was a bit overwhelming as well. So you were saying about having to go hands on. If you go hands on, you'll understand.
Right.
And if you don't feel it, there's no way words can explain it.
But also, there had to be preparation for weeks and months in our Zoom meetings, weekly Zoom meetings, to get you ready. We did have people come in, drop-ins. It was a very different experience. But let's just say that you and the others had not done the preparation for weeks in advance. What would it have been like if the same curriculum was given to you over the 3 days?
It's how it's with the preparation, because there was physical preparation which was quite mind-blowing from day one.
You mean Tong B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Tong B was mind-blowing, and then there was the intellectual side of things. So that we were getting a physical feeling and an intellectual side of it with the amount of information you were giving us to prepare us. So consequently, we were in a good place when we arrived to take everything in.
Yeah.
Whereas we wouldn't have understood. I think it's essential to have. You need that thing. It's like when I Tong B today, I was asking myself, because now I've come back and it's what I'm going to do with all this and And so I was thinking, okay, so I did my Tong B today, and he said, ask a question. So what do I need now? And what it said, because normally I would just, if I wanted someone to come and try a class at this, I would probably fire a sentence or no, a couple of sentences, a paragraph to try and do the sell. And now I'm thinking to myself, you've got to do a seminar. People need to come and have a few hours to understand what this is.
Right.
Because their comprehension, yeah. I have to do a seminar.
Yeah.
I have to get them to come in so I can sit them down and say, because there's things you would never have thought of. There's just things you would never comprehend and have thought of.
It's a reframing. We're reframing the practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're using
so people couldn't understand it with their terms of reference, that their normal daily terms of reference. So they wouldn't understand. But you've got to take them outside the box and say, look at this. You know, there's all sorts going on, because like I remember there was so many people who were there were all on like a spiritual path. And I switch off to that all the time, because I just want to get to the core of the martial arts side of it. So, but now I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is definitely something I've got to look into. This is because all these people are really good people who are there. I'm thinking, yeah, that's something I need to look into as well.
Well,
because you don't know what you don't know, sir. You don't
right.
know what you don't know. And then when you have a physical experience and your brain's trying to make sense of it, all the stuff that I switched off to in the past all came to the fore. And I'm thinking, this is important. That's important. Because I disregarded it in the past. But now I'm thinking to myself, no, I need to understand this, especially if I want to teach it. Because I've got to find a way to communicate it.
Right.
And the best way to communicate it is to be able to have a good, as you did. It's not communicating it with words, it's communicating it with skill.
This is what goes on pretty much all the time, is you come in and you're looking to get an experience with the teacher. How many times does this happen? It happens all the time, constantly. But because you're coming in just to touch hands, it's I'd say the lowest yield of anything in terms of what the teacher can get across, what the student can receive. But that's become the standard, and it's the default. So the problem is that when you touch hands, just imagine that we hadn't had any workup. It's when there's no introduction and you just go into that physical engagement, is the impression gets stuck on the sensational level, on the sensory, body kinesthetic level. There's no rationale. There's no deeper system. All you are is a man versus man. And whatever happens, you have to use your imagination to draw any conclusions, like, oh, I was thrown back. Oh, they must have internal power. They must have great Pong. And that's the level. It's very, very superficial, unfortunately, at this point in time, because the inner transmissions have not been disseminated. What we discovered together in our comparative research between Tai Chi and Bagua is that the Tai Chi system itself, the theoretical, intellectual, is still very much wanting. It's very much lacking. And that explains the whole Tai Chi community. Because there are people who have strong theoretical foundations in Tai Chi, especially philosophical, right? Wu Ji goes to Yo Ji, goes to Tai Chi, and the Qi and the mind and the classics, everything that's presented there, it's still on the sensational level. That's the big problem. Only when you learn the Bagua system and how the 8 trigrams are treated, compared, and not just that, how the 8 trigrams and the 5 elements and the yin yang are treated as one system, compared to what Tai Chi Chuan does with them. Side by side is what opened the intelligence. And that's why I presented it the way I did. So with that, suddenly a reality opens to the martial artist who in their rightful way is just looking for technical results. But with this exposure, the mind starts to have to deal with a new reality. And what the reality is you're beginning to gain substance and depth and sophistication of your understanding of your body, so that you take that into the one-on-one physical interaction and you're making completely different sense of your experience. Now, only that way have you been able to articulate what just happened to you. You pulled as hard as you can and it wasn't moving. That's one thing. And then it started to move toward you and take the route, which led to more confusion based on past experience. It didn't make sense given our size and weight difference.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, that stuck feeling. I didn't realize it was a physical stuck. It was a mental stuck, but whatever stuck it was, nothing was happening on my part, because I think I was waiting. I couldn't comprehend how to get out of that situation, and so there was a pause. There was a panic, and I think what you were saying about, because every bloke's natural inbuilt DNA, inbuilt through thousands of years, is to revert to the animal. And then, but then when you think you brought in this higher human being intellect, the intellect will always beat the animal.
Right.
And that's and so people are defaulting. They've got the default instinctive. A man has instinctively, he'll default to the animal. But I think that's also Tai Chi people will do that as well.
No different. No different. No different at all.
Because the intellect will always beat the animal.
And until you develop the higher mind, that's what Gong Bao Jai, you know what he said? He said, Nei Chuan, which means internal fist. He said, the real meaning of Natren had nothing to do with Qi, has nothing to do with strength or Neigong, internal strength. Natren means the inside of a person, which is the mind and the intellect. So Bagua Tren people of this one branch, and the reason you have ox tongue palm versus the dragon palm, very specific reason, because when the fingers are brought together like this, and the Nusha is called the ox tongue, I don't think the name really does justice to the effect of this. Not only are you targeting pressure points, you're not hitting pressure points with this. You're grabbing and throwing or big power strikes. The Yin Fu system, which was acquired from Donghai Tren directly over the 13 years. 13 years were needed to convey such a complex system that you've already tasted. 13 years, right? Not two years. Just to get your mind around half of the information about the makeup of the human body. This here, when the fingers are together, develops the mind. This is more brute body, brute force, strength, physical Bagua, which is popular and makes sense because it's closer to the average idea of martial arts. This idea, just represented by the palm, speaks volumes in terms of where the focus is, which is to build the higher intellect. And it will always beat the body, like you said.